What's up, everybody? Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming, and I know it's been a minute since I've done a full review. I know I do my review shorts and everything like that, but I just spent my entire day, saw all 10 episodes of Twisted Metal, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had little expectations going into the Twisted Metal show. I knew it was being created, and I knew a lot of people weren't impressed by the trailers, and there was a lot of criticism for it. But you got to look at the criticism of the show was that it didn't follow Twisted Metal Black. And that's the key problem. A lot of people forgot that Twisted Metal 1, 2, 3, I believe there's a third one on PlayStation 1, I'm trying to remember correctly. But I'll just say the first two games. Twisted Metal has always been over the top and ridiculous. It didn't start having this edgy, dark tone until Twisted Metal Black, Twisted Metal Heads On, and the 2013 Twisted Metal. So a lot of people forgot that Twisted Metal was over the top to begin with. They're just used to the edgy, dark version. And this show captures the essence of at least the first two games very well. You know, it has the vehicular combat that you would expect from Twisted Metal. It has like the most standout character that I was worried about, that I thought he would have been downplayed, was Sweet Tooth. And Sweet Tooth surprised the hell out of me how much they kept him intact. Now you're probably saying, well, which version of Sweet Tooth? Yes, there is a couple different variations of Sweet Tooth, but it's going with the more ridiculous, over-the-top psychopath Sweet Tooth. Not the gritty, down-to-earth emo version of Black and the reboot. So, and it has an original story to explain why the world and all these vehicle combat situations are occurring. You know, and it's actually pretty hilarious. It's very humorous. It very much has the tone and vibes of the first two Deadpool films and the first two Zombieland movies, which credited to the people that were involved making those two, or at least those four sets of movies, because I count it as four movies in total. The first two Zombielands, first two Deadpools. And with that being said, that humor, that style of comedy, and vibe crosses over into Twisted Metal. Now, you do get character backgrounds. You do understand how these characters are the way they are. Certain characters are retooled to fit more in line with the show because they really don't have strong backgrounds in the video games. I mean, the video games, if you count their stories are like Mortal Kombat ladders at best. You can't tell who's truly the winner. Like, there's no single single continuity to the video games. The video games is all just depends on whoever wins the Twisted Metal event or just who plays Calypso's game. This actually has a story. This one actually has a reason for why things are the way they are and how these characters end up where they are. And I think that is something that's going to be jarring to Twisted Metal fans, because in all actuality, when you're going to a Twisted Metal game, you're just going in, get your favorite car, fight your friends, fight online, or fight the NPCs. That's just really is all about. Nobody really pays attention to the stories in Twisted Metal unless you're going by your favorite character, and the only consistent presence we all know about is Calypso, who is actually, I wouldn't say he's absent, but you can guarantee that he's going to be set up for a later season. So, good thing is he's not wasted in the show. He's mentioned, you hear him, and you do get an understanding of how he works, which is very similar to the games, with arrangements and deals. But there's a character at the beginning of the show who kind of fills the void of making an arrangement that you should follow up on and then puts you on this test. See, it's not a tournament like the Twisted Metal games. It's more of a journey type situation, which for a TV show format, it works better. There's not that many time skips, and they only tell characters' backgrounds when it's necessary. So, a lot of the show is very straightforward. I mean, my favorite introduction was Sweet Tooth. Like, the way they handled him, and the fact that he's played by the wrestler Samoa Joe. I didn't see Samoa Joe. I saw Sweet Tooth. And I believe it's episode 6 or 7. It's like, I think it's episode 5, 6, or 7. It's in one of these episodes where Sweet Tooth goes on a fucking rampage and kills. And then it all culminates in the season finale where all the vehicles get together in an arena type area and they all start fighting. It feels like a match of Twisted Metal. See, you couldn't have something like that happen every single episode or it would get stale. You know, you're just having constant car combat after constant car combat. They use the car combat when it's necessary. And in fact, the car combat here is very reminiscent and it reminds me a lot of Mad Max level of car combat, which is good. I'm a fan of the Mad Max movies. I really like the fourth one, which was Fury Road, which at the time had the best style of car combat. But Twisted Metal, at least here in the show, they had my attention. Now, there were certain parts where the show slowed down a little bit, and I get that for character development. There's certain things that they could have brushed over instead of taking their time with. Anthony Mackie's character is a mix of two characters from the video game, but he does get the vehicle Roadkill, which is the car that he gets later in the show. They do show vehicles from the game, whether they're owned by their original owners or their original owners in the vehicle are being set up for later on. So they don't use every single vehicle. They use specific ones from the game that make sense for the show. And there's always the possibility of another season which could develop and bring more characters from the game. Because there's no Mr. Grimm, there's no Axel, there's no, what was his name? I think it's Tombstone, I believe. I'm trying to remember certain characters from the game, because Sweet Tooth was always my go-to character, but I know Roadkill because Roadkill is just like the first card that always pops up on the roster when you play the game. But that being said, I think the acting was pretty solid. That it's edgy humor, of course. It's Deadpool style of humor, but since Deadpool style of humor works and those writers know how to create comedy, this show was pretty funny in a lot of areas. Everybody could be a psychopath and you don't know it. And I feel that that fits with the vibe of Twisted Metal. It's over the top, it's insane, it's colorful, and it's not so dark, gritty, and edgy. It's dark when it needs to be. That's the key part. I believe it does a good balancing act of what it needs to do and what it is setting up to do. You know, a lot of people were worried, is this going to be faithful to the games? Well, the problem is, what's really the story in the video games? Besides just a card tournament and different character endings. So this is where you have the opportunity with a show to actually flesh out characters, flesh out the universe, and give a reason for why tons of psychopaths are driving vehicles and constantly fighting each other. Now, I guarantee if they do a Season 2, I hope they bring in Calypso, and I hope they do bring in the idea of a tournament. Then it would make sense to have a tournament season. But at least for this season of Twisted Metal, despite any of its ups and downs it may have, I would say it's a solid B. It's a blast to watch. It's enjoyable. The episodes are not long. They run about 30 minutes apiece, and you can spend your day watching it. That's really all I gotta say. You know, I like the Twisted Metal show, and I highly recommend it. Be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, and I'll see you all in the next video.